What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 5, Episode 14, The Devil Complex. So, this one, it hits home. It really, really hits home. So, pretty much, this entire episode is based around two main stories. First of all, we see Framework Fits, the Doctor, show up, trying to do something. We're still not entirely sure what, and then we also see, the team goes and captures General Hale, which, of course, I think we all saw coming from a mile away. It was actually so obvious that I was surprised that there wasn't some sort of counterplay that Coulson had in mind. That he just thoroughly believed, oh yeah, we totally got her. I mean, that was easy. I don't know, I felt like it was too obvious. It was like, wow, she just left her phone to be hacked. I mean, you really think she's that dumb? It seemed pretty silly to me that they didn't consider that at all. So, of course, we'll talk about that one first. Of course, it turns out to be a bit of a trap. Creel is the one who is driving the car that they capture her in. And so he's got C4 strapped to his chest. He's pretty much telling him, hey, look, you gotta listen to what she says or else you guys all die. And then the Russian guy whose name escapes me, I'll remember it at some point, he shows up to taunt Coulson a little bit. And it turns out he is working with Hale, but not. He's kind of working for Hale, but she's not the one in charge either. So I kind of, whenever he popped up, I'm like, oh, so he's the one in charge. He's the one controlling Hale. No, not quite. He's actually being controlled by her, and then we meet her superior, whoever he is, at the end of this episode, and he's like, Hail Hydra. So I guess this is another faction of Hydra that managed to survive. I don't think anyone was really that surprised. I mean, I don't know, it kind of felt like, of course she's Hydra. Like, she's worked with them before, why wouldn't she be one now? It wasn't as big a surprise as I think the show was hoping for. But it was still, it was interesting to see the back and forth. Coulson decides to go with them to sort of see what their operation is. I guess she's talking about they're trying to save the world. I guess whatever they're doing involves whatever world-ending thing is on its way that will ultimately lead to the world being split apart, I suppose. I'm still not entirely sure what that could be, but it feels like everything is still moving along that path to the world being destroyed. And on that note, back in the base, we see, like I said, the Doctor's walking around. He first encounters Fitz, and he's talking to him. He's trying to tell him, the solution to how to compress the gravitonium is at your fingertips. You just have to, you're very close, you're almost there. Well, going through this episode, we see the robots get turned back on, and it looks like the Doctor's done it. Mac gets shot because he tried to attack it, and so it shoots him to keep him down, and then it kidnaps Daisy, and then the Doctor begins working on Daisy, and then there's this scene where he's arguing with the Doctor, and Daisy's like, who are you talking to? And that's when it all kind of clicked, which I will say one of the things that first popped into my mind is it possible that the Doctor himself is not not anachronism, what's the word? Anomaly. Is not actually an anomaly, but it's caused an anomaly within Fitz to bring the Doctor out of him. And still not entirely sure if that's the case or not at the end of this episode. He does talk about how he's felt the Doctor's influence in him since the framework, but this is the first time he's actually seen him. So I do think it could be possible that the Fear Rift did bring that side out of him into more of a manifestation, a physical manifestation in himself. And so it is possible that it could happen. So I'm wondering if that might be, now that the Fear Rift is closed, I wonder if maybe he won't experience that again, or maybe he's just come to accept the fact that the Doctor is a part of him that he has just pushed down for too long. I can totally see that. He's been through a lot, and I can understand he does have that dark side of him because of his circumstances. Knowing his family grew up in a terrible, terrible household, it's possible that even the nicest guys like him can have a dark side to them as well. And so, at the end of this episode, he does bring Daisy's powers back and then tells her how to compress the gravitonium to put it into the device that will shut the Fear Rift. And so they do all that, but then of course he turns himself in because he realizes he's too dangerous to be left out. But, like I said, is the Doctor that we saw in this episode, was that a manifestation from the Fear Rift inside of Fitz's mind to where now that the Fear Rift is closed, he won't experience it again? Or is this just, is this something that just has been a long time coming, and now the doctor's finally come out in fits, and so he's starting to experience it? I get the feeling it'll probably have something to do with the fear rift, but they won't figure that out just yet. Because I mean, it would be too easy if it was just, oh well, Fitz. I mean, the fear rift is closed, and now you're okay, so we can let you out now. No, it's gonna be he's gonna be in there for a couple episodes at least, and they're gonna need his help on stuff, and he's gonna be like, look, I'm too scared, I can't do this, and then eventually he'll realize that, kind of what Simmons said to him at the end of near the end of this episode, how when they're talking about trying to save the world and world-ending consequences, sometimes that mindset, being the doctor, is what they need. So I don't know. I'm curious to see where that's going. It is very sad though to see them in such a state, because we just had a happy moment with them a few episodes ago, and now here we are again down in the dumps. They can't seem to find their happy ending. But at the end of this episode, though, finally, Deke tells Simmons that he is their grandson, and she reacts in typical fashion to if you found out that somebody you knew was actually your long lost descendant. She just I don't know. It was the perfect reaction, because while they probably are used to stuff like this is something more personal. If you being told, hey, we are in the future. Oh yeah, I totally get that. That's the type of reaction normally they have to this type of thing. But because it's more personal, because it's like, oh, no, I'm your grandson, that's something a bit heavier. And so it's like, just all over the floor. I don't know. It was funny. It was perfect reaction from her. And I wonder now what they're going to do with this information. If this is going to help them in any way. Like I said, we don't really know if Deke was involved with the world ending before. We didn't see him in any of the flashbacks. So does the fact that he ended up being brought back with them, does that change the timeline at all? We do see Mac and Yo-Yo at one point talking about how, she's like, you saw me in the lighthouse, clearly I make it to that point. So, and Mac's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't die. I mean, the timeline can still be changed, so I could still lose you at some point. And on top of that, I mean, you really think about it, the Yo-Yo we saw at the lighthouse said she'd been brought back to life several times, so that doesn't mean that she dies like several years down the line. She could die sooner. She could die within the next month according to this timeline, and then they keep her body and bring her back later on. But I really do enjoy where it's going right now. I'm getting excited to see where this is all leading to. What is the threat that's on its way? We hear the Russian talking about it. We hear Hale talking about it to Coulson. There is some threat on the way. Is it going to be Thanos? I know Infinity War is this month, so there's a good chance this is what it could be leading to. Thanos is the threat that they're talking about. And if that's the case, how much is that going to impact Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I feel like it has to. There's no way that they couldn't write around the events of what's going to happen in Infinity War. So I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen next, but that's all for this episode, so now on to the next one. See you there. And now, episode 15, Rise and Shine. Yes, I have a different shirt on. It's a completely different day. I've been very busy, so finally had a chance to watch this next episode. So this one, we carry on where we left off at the end of last one, where Hale is taking Coulson to their base. And very interestingly, she reveals very early on she's Hydra. And at that point, I'm like, okay, so clearly there's something else going on here, because you wouldn't just reveal that without some sort of plan. Well, then she tells him it's our chance now for Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. to finally work together. Interesting. I mean, it's an interesting concept, and it's something that when she said it, I'm like, okay, so clearly she's not really the bad guy here. Even though she does do some bad things, she's doing it for a purpose that I think I'm starting to understand, where there is something deadly on the way. I believe Thanos is what we're talking about here, and she's, her predecessors made a deal with these people who I assume will end up being the Kree that will enslave, the human population later on down the line. Either that, or they're just some random alien race that we've not met yet, and they just sort of leave whenever Hale turns against them. Because we find out in this episode her plan is to use this device that Whitehall created to create this human being that's similar to Creel, I'm not really sure why not just use Creel, or maybe she needs Creel, like his DNA, to power the device or something. But they're pretty much talking about creating a super strong human being who has the ability to take on any sort of substance. And I really thought that was Creel's ability. So I don't know, was he created by using this device, or is he just, an inhuman that has the same powers this device has? I don't know. Maybe we'll learn more as we go down the line. That was the only part that confused me. But basically, her idea is to get. I mean, her daughter was created specifically to be used in this device, and but she decides, she's not ready, and so Daisy might be ready, and she's like, well, if Daisy can become the gravitonium, she then can destroy any alien invasion that comes our way, and of course, Coulson realizes, oh crap, this is what destroys the world. This is why Daisy's able to quake the world apart, because she becomes one with the gravitonium, and she even calls her little device the destroyer of worlds, and it's like, okay, yeah, clearly this is what happens. So all of that was just, it was very interesting. I enjoyed getting to see the progression, how they handled the entire first part of the episode. We start off seeing Hale when she's a young girl in Hydra. She looks up to Daniel Whitehall. It was fun seeing him back in the episode. We see her and Von Strucker not getting along, which makes sense because they kind of have differing ideologies. We see whenever Hydra was being taken down, we see Talbot come in, and I was so glad to see him back in the episode, or back on the show. We see him taking down one of the Hydra agents inside the Air Force, but he doesn't realize she's Hydra, so he leaves her alone. And then we see him after he got shot by Daisy, or LMD Daisy, and it was pretty sad. I'm going to admit this part really, really got to me. Just seeing him finally back on the show, because he was a fun character. I loved having Talbot on the show. He was funny. It was like that very strict, straight way. I don't know what to call him, but he's like the general. He's the hard nut to crack. He's the one that he'll go along with Coulson, but he doesn't like it. He doesn't agree with what Coulson's doing, and so to see him so broken after what happened. He's there with his family. His son is trying to help him with some stuff. It's like trying to show him these words and like trying to help him remember. And he's like picking it, and he's like, yeah, that's a cherry, right? And it's like, oh, this is sweet. And then we hear the doctor saying that his impulse control still isn't quite right. And sure enough, he like freaks out on his son because he said cat. His son said yes, but it turned out to be a tiger, and he freaks out. He's like, no, he lied to me. He told me that was a cat. It's not a cat, it's a tiger. How am I going to get better if he lies to me? And it's like freaking out his son. His wife looks scared, and my heart just broke. I'm like, this is awful. This is actually really hard to watch. So I don't know. It was very, very sad. I really enjoyed getting to see this, getting to see what happened after the fact, but it was very sad. And then the next time he wakes up, he's in the base where Hale took Talbot, or Coulson, sorry, and he wakes up and goes through the base, walks into one room, sees all the food there, starts eating, and then Ruby walks in. She does her same old thing that she did with Von Strucker's kid, where she like walks in, headphones in, completely ignores him, doesn't even acknowledge he's in the room, and just does her little thing, eats whatever, and then walks out. And so Talbot follows after her and is like, okay, what's going on here? You need to talk to me right now, young lady. And then that's when she like stops him. Hale steps in and then tells him everything going on. He refuses to give him information. Then we cut away and then come back, and Coulson's the one now there. And so we kind of walk through that whole thing with the Destroyer of Worlds, the machine that she wants to put Daisy through. I will say there are a few things that stood out in this part with Coulson. First of all, we see, he's going through, and I mean, Coulson's humor has always been one of the best things about this show. Anytime he's in his funny mood, it's always so much fun to watch. In this one, we see he's talking to her, talking to Ruby, because she goes in, does her little thing with the headphones, and is like picking things. He's like, so, as a motel, I think I'd give you a C-. Oh, hang on. And then pulls out his cereal. He's like, okay, fine, I'll give you C+. He's like, well, tell Hale whenever she wants to talk to me, I'll be in my room. And then walks out. And we see that she actually reacts to that. Like, she turns around to look after him. So I'm wondering if maybe her whole thing, being in there, not talking to him, leaving the headphones in, is kind of like a test, trying to test their resolve, trying to, I guess, test their will almost. And so I'm wondering what this means, the fact that she actually acknowledged him. What exactly does that mean for her? But anyway, we see Hale walk in, talk to Coulson about all this stuff, and of course Coulson flips out. He's like, "No, I've seen the future. I know what's going on. We can't do this." And it's weird because up until this point, it seems like they finally decided, okay, we're gonna work together. And she can even see that Coulson's willing to work together. But as soon as she mentions that, that's when he's like, "No, we can't do this." And then she just doesn't believe a word he says after that. And I'm just like, okay, a few things. One, he's been wanting to cooperate up until this one point. So clearly this one point is something that he's taking very serious. Two, there's a lot of very interesting things and very strange things in your world. Why would traveling to the future be one that you're just like, no, that's entirely not possible? And three, what happened to trying to work together? You know, if she's trying to work with him, shouldn't she at least consider his point of view? If she, I mean, I get they're trying to show, like, she had it rough growing up. You know, she was born and raised in Hydra. Completely makes sense that she's a little bit on the serious side because of how Hydra trained her. We even see Whitehall at one point tell her that she's going to be artificially inseminated with Ruby, and that's Hydra's plan for her. That's got to be hard, being top of your class, working so hard just to be like, oh, because you're a woman, we're going to plant a seed inside of you and have you raise and birth this perfect human that we're trying to create. That's got to suck. And, you know, she wants whoever to go in the machine, she wants it to be a woman because of that, you know, and I do see where they're going with that, the whole, like, oh, this is a man's Hydra, and now it's a woman's Hydra. I see where they're going with it. They're not playing the whole woman hand too heavily yet. I could see them definitely going heavy-handed with it at some point, just because, I don't know, a lot of the media nowadays is liberal, and they want to be all like, oh yeah, women are awesome. But I do like the fact that it sort of does shape her motivation, and is why she wants her daughter, or Daisy, to be the ones to step into the machine, because of how Hydra treated her, just because she was a woman, and, oh, we only need you because you can birth a child. And so because of that, I do understand she's probably a little bit off the deep end. And so whenever somebody sort of steps up to her and tries to go against what she wants, I can understand her reacting a little bit like frustrated. But at the same time, we've seen she's willing to do whatever it takes, even cooperating with her enemy to try to save the world. So why at this one point does she all of a sudden say, oh no, never mind, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm not going to listen to you? He was listening to you. I don't know, it seems a little bit strange. It seems a little bit forced to have Coulson be like, no, this is what happens, and for her to just completely ignore him. It feels like they're kind of forcing the point of the timeline is going to happen, how it's going to happen. That seems to be the only real reason why she would act this way, is just because it would be too easy if Coulson said, hey, I've been to the future, this machine destroys the world, and she goes, oh, okay, and then just says, well, we won't do this then. Then we won't have much of a story. So it just feels kind of forced in there. But even after all of this, which I really did enjoy, we're still not done, because we also have this little scene at the end where Daisy, I don't know why they were doing this. I guess because the title was Rise and Shine, they kept having people, like, it started off every scene with a new character opening their eyes and, like, waking up. So now we see Daisy, and now she's going through trying to figure out what their next plan is now that Coulson's moved on. She's in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. because Coulson put her in charge. And so they're trying to figure out what is Hale trying to do. They're trying to figure out her plan, and of course they can't. And that's when May realizes, wait, we have a supervillain we can use. Goes to talk to Fitz. We see Fitz is still kind of feeling sorry for himself. I'm still not entirely sure what his story is. You know, like I said in my last review, I'm wondering if the fear rift is what caused the doctor's side to come back out in him, or if it's just something that was slowly progressing and then finally hit its climax in the last episode. Still not entirely sure, but we see that it's not like he is hating everyone. He understands why they're in there, but he also is kind of feeling sorry for himself at the same time. Like, he's kind of pitying himself after what all that happened and stuff. But May goes to him for information. He tries to help her out. Can't really get the information. That's when Daisy steps in, and it's just like, no, we're not letting you on the computers, because that's what he wants. And it's kind of, I don't know, I do feel like it's a little bit of forced drama once again, because I feel like normally Daisy would look at this and be like, okay, clearly Fitz, you weren't acting like yourself, so let's just monitor him and make sure he doesn't do anything he shouldn't do. But instead, because of what he did to her, it's like they're kind of over dramatizing it and making her react even more frustrated than she really should, just to cause this drama to go on a little bit further. And because letting him on the computers and letting him do whatever he needs to do to find the information would be way too easy. So once again, just sort of feels like the writers wrote in this conflict to make the story stretch out longer. But ultimately, it ends with Daisy not trusting him, and then she goes to go find Robin to use, which, of course, we saw Robin with the team in the lighthouse in the flashbacks, so clearly the timeline is still playing out exactly how it has, and nothing's changing. They show this one little scene with Mac and Simmons. She's putting the robot arms onto Yo-Yo, and we do see that it is working. But it's kind of interesting to see the little conversation going on. Mac pretty much tells her, she feels invincible because she saw herself in the future. And I like the fact they're kind of playing with this idea a little bit. It's like, okay, so what does this mean? Well, Simmons takes it to mean, well, if the timeline can't change, that means that Deke definitely is going to be our grandson, which means Fitz and I definitely will be together and we will have a daughter. And so she goes to tell Fitz this information. His reaction is priceless. That means we have a daughter and she grows up to marry somebody that will birth a Deke. I don't know. I love how he reacted to finding out that Deke is his grandson, because it's exactly how I expected it to, because he doesn't really get along with him. But yeah, so they have that little moment at the end. They do once again feel like, oh, well, we're invincible. I don't really know if that's true. I don't know if they really are, because the timeline still could change. There's still a chance that everything could change and things could go differently. I know they're kind of playing this whole thing like, oh no, it's definitely going to happen this way, but I don't know if that's true. We still haven't seen concrete proof that that's how it works. So yeah, I'm still interested to see where that's going to go. Aside from that, just a few other things. I love getting to see, more about Ruby and finding out about her backstory, because she is still kind of a big question mark, but getting to see why she was created and learning that it was an artificial insemination that caused her to be born. I mean, that kind of is interesting, and we also see that her mother's pretty much been training her to be this leader, and we even see some of her time at Hydra, and it's like, she's definitely a great fighter and all this, but the guy sees that there's still something off about her, and even her mom says she's not ready to lead. There's something different about her. So I like the fact that we're getting to see a bit more about her. She does threaten Coulson by showing him Talbot. Talbot's completely lost his mind. He's like, I'm sorry, Coulson. I tried to hold out, but they broke me. I gave him the information. I'm sorry. But Coulson, I'm sorry. Coulson. And he's like clearly lost his mind. I do feel really bad for Talbot in that case. But she's kind of threatening, saying, this is the last guy that held out information on me. It's going to happen to you too. So whatever the case, I'm really looking forward to what's going to happen next. I'm really interested to see where this season is going. I still feel like the Thanos connection is going to be a part of it, just because it feels like that's what this alien is referring to. The war that's coming to Earth. I feel like Thanos is going to be that war. So after all of that happens, I don't know, maybe somehow they're going to be connected to how they managed to stop Thanos for now. Obviously, Infinity War is not going to be the end of him. But I don't know, so many different theories and so many ideas going through my mind. I'm just excited to see what's going to happen next. So that's it for these 2 episodes. I'm going to save the next 2 that I have left, just because I do have some other reviews I need to work on. So I will save those 2 reviews before I watch them, and I'll do another review video of just those 2 episodes. But that's it for these 2. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 2 episodes? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.